So we are here with...
Aedy from Paradise Lost.
Okay. Aaron, how did you first get interested in music?
My dad was quite into music. I grew up initially with things like Jim Reeves, The Shadows, Roy Orbison, Elvis Presley. I'm named after Aaron comes in. It's Elvis Presley's middle name. So my dad was a big fan, and then growing up he kind of liked stuff like Queen and ELO, so I've been a fan of those bands for forever, you know, and really just because there was music in the house, I think as much as anything, that's where it first came from.
When did you pick up guitar first?
The first time I touched a guitar was probably, my dad had one kicking around the house when I was like 1 or 2 years old, and he used to do the pick slides up and down the string, saying it was like an airplane landing or coming to land and stuff. Mm-hmm. And pause.
Oh, we're good.
Oh, sorry.
That's rock and roll.
But then, you know, I mean, I think he sold it when I was quite young because he needed to pay the mortgage. But I got my own guitar when I was 14 years old, so it was like around April 1984, and only because I wasn't allowed to have a drum kit. I still want to be a drummer, to be fair. And in fact, for my 40th, I bought myself a drum kit a number of years ago, so I've got that dream going a little bit now. But yeah, no, it was. Well, I was so frustrated. I was massively into metal music, and I wanted to be a drummer. Wanted allowed to have a drum kit because I had two sisters who were like 1 and 2 in the house. I can understand why my mum didn't want me hitting a drum kit. She wasn't getting enough sleep as it was. So I got a guitar. I'm naturally left-handed, like Greg.
So am I.
And but my friend was selling a right-handed guitar at school for £10. So I bought that and went from air guitar in that way to going, oh, hang on, this is weird. And just went from there, really. Yeah.
When did Paradise Lost came to be a band?
That was March the 26th, 1988. That's when Paradise Lost formed. It was quite a nice day.
So it truly is 30 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was 30 years, March 26th. It was a Saturday, and it was our first rehearsal at Studio X in Halifax, the town where the band was formed. Most of us went to school in Halifax, except for Steve. He's from Bradford, which is a neighbouring town. And we'd never, until literally a few weeks ago, we played out a 30th anniversary show in Halifax, because we'd never actually played the town where the band formed. We always played Bradford or Leeds or neighbouring towns, so we had we played basically a pub in Halifax.
So truly a homecoming.
Yeah, it was really cool as well. I mean, it was a tiny place, there was no stage. I mean, literally people in the crowd are like that right in front of you, and it was a good rock and roll night actually. We had our original drummer got up and did a song, Tuds. Jeff got up and did a song just because they happened to be there and we thought it'd be fun. Wasn't really organised in advance, but yeah, no, it's been cool.
What were your influences back then?
Well, when we started the band, we loved Candlemas, Trouble, Chicago.
So a little bit
Trouble.
of Chicago, right?
I'm going to say, yeah, in Chicago of all places, mentioned the mighty Trouble. But we loved bands like Creator. Celtic Frost were another massive influence at the time. And I think if Tuds had been able to drum faster, we wouldn't have been a doom band. I think him not, because he was diabetic and he ran out of energy dead quick. I think Tuds being a better slow drummer than a fast drummer stopped us sounding like Creator and made us more into a doom band. So he's got a large part of the reason Paradise Lost are like they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the first album. Let's show it.
Ta-da!
Yep.
That's the first album.
How long did it take for you to make that record?
Literally a couple of weeks. We were writing it, obviously, for the first year or two we were together. And we went into the studio with Hammy, who owned Peaceful Records, and Keith Appleton, who owned the studios, did all the keyboards on it, and he did the keyboards on the next album, Gothic, which we'll come to in a minute. Mm-hmm. But when we brought this album out, there was a lot of things happening with bands suing other bands for their name. There was like Sacrilege had to become Sacrilege.
BC,
yeah,
that's right.
Because there was a lot of this going on, and we heard there was another band in America called Paradise Lost, but I think they were a rap band.
I think you're correct, yes.
And so what we did with the album, just to get around it, we called the album, down the edges it says Paradise Lost, Lost Paradise, and on the other binding it says Lost Paradise, Paradise Lost. And we were going to change the band's name if we ever got challenged. We were going to change the band's name to Lost Paradise, and so the first album would have been called Paradise Lost by Lost Paradise. So But yeah, it's on. You can see on the vinyl. I don't know whether it's on. It made it onto the CD prints or whatever. But that was our. I was trying to be safe and curb that, but luckily, I think the other band.
How do you look back on that time during the first record?
Exciting. I mean, one dream you have when you pick up an instrument is to be on vinyl. I mean, as it was for us, there wasn't really many CDs in those days. But yeah, you dreamed. I mean, literally, when you physically got hold of vinyl that you had recorded, it was probably one of the most exciting days of my life, to be honest. Still, I still get the hairs on the back of my neck thinking about it. But yeah, very special.
And things certainly got better with Gothic, which received a great acclaim. Gothic, right?
Which, it was...
How would you say the band progressed from the first album to Gothic?
Well, the first album we were very naive with how we were recording. I mean, Hammy from Peaceful, while recording Lost Paradise, he was actually reading a book called How to Be a Producer while we were in the studio, and he had the amazing idea of we record the guitars clean-ish and put the distortion on in the mix, which we just went, yeah, right, we thought we must know what he's talking about. Stupid mistake, really. But there we go. We didn't do that again. Thanks, Hammy.
People love that record.
Yeah. I mean, it gave it a unique sound. I'll say that much. But yeah, I know. I mean, it's still a great record. We keep every now and then we keep going back and recording one of the songs, like we've done Frozen Illusion recently. But we did Rotting Misery on a tour a few years ago as well. But now we've got Beneath Broken Earth, similar kind of vibe that's kind of taken over from Rotting Misery now. But yeah, with Gothic, the mighty Keith Appleton came back the studios and played keyboards. He did all the intros and everything like that. Great guy. He's still got a studio going. He's still there in Dewsbury. But yeah, with the Gothic album, I think we started touring a lot more for the first time. I mean, we were doing bits of shows off the first album. We did a bit of a tour with Autopsy for a few weeks as well. So we were really starting to understand, and with Gothic we knew a little bit more about recording, and so we were a bit better prepared when we went in.
Now, also consistently, even I'm looking at the next record, you became a lot more musical.
Yeah, I think, well, we were all improving as musicians at the same time, because we were all sort of very, still learning our instruments when we started the band. We were sort of growing. The more we played together, the more understanding we had with each other. I mean, myself and Greg, I've got a great understanding. He's an amazing lead guitarist. I just want to play riffs. So we're both very happy in our camps, So it's worked very well on that run, really.
Shades of Grey.
Next one. This is the Shades of God album. Was the first album we did for Music for Nations, and also I'd say the first album we did with a producer, really, rather than Amy just sitting at the back smoking spliffs. He was a producer of sorts, but and a lovely fellow. And actually, I can't slag off Amy. He was amazing. And being on Peaceful Records was one of the best decisions we ever made, because he was so fair in his dealings with the bands. He didn't overly tie them up. He believed on investing in bands, helping bands, rather than just trying to, run them dry from money. So he was great that way. So I would say thank you for Hammy for the Peaceful Records before I get into Music for Nations with Shades of God. Our first album with a proper producer. We recorded it in a studio where we didn't even have a television, I think, for the first 2 weeks. So we were just cracking jokes and doing stupid stuff all the time while we were in there. It was really good. And it was run by Robert John Godfrey, who was in Barclay James Harvest and the Enid. He was a character. Well, he still is a character. But he was at that period. Yeah, he was a complete character, and he helped make that recording session very memorable. But Simon Effermy really, really brought the best out of us. I mean, for me especially, because I was not a very confident player. I've never been that confident with it, but. Simon was like, he'd have like a Neve desk, and he'd have his foot on it and a pint in one hand and be headbanging, so he was really good at getting the vibe and getting you, really up for recording. So Simon was brilliant that way, and he totally got Paradise Lost. I mean, that's why we used him for, 3 records, and we've used him again recently. But Simon was brilliant, and Music for Nations had a very big vision for us, and it was like proper planning going forward. We signed management with Andy Farrow's Northern Music, as it's called now. It was Far North then, And he's been our manager ever since December 1991, and he's a top lad, and he's kept us on the straight and narrow. And going on from Shades of God, and basically just talking about the studio rather than the record, but I think the record was touring for Shades of God got us a lot of exposure, and I mean, songs like As I Die, etc. Really sort of started projecting the band into a broader sphere, I think, than Gothic. Gothic was got a lot of people noticing us. We'd done a lot of tape trading in the early days, and Gothic, and then Shades of God was like another step up for that, and a lot more touring and a proper schedule of like what we were going to do for the next year and a half, and we'd never had that before. That's part management, part Music for Nations, and with them we also did the next one, Icon. We toured a lot on that record, and we started with we did our first ever American tour supporting Morbid Angel and Creator, sort of like July, August '93. That was about 8.5 weeks, and we came home after having various nights where literally we went on stage, then they opened the doors and just people shouting faster all the time. We got a lot of that. We had some really cool shows as well, but we came back and we did an MTV live show at the Stuttgart Longhorn, September '93, and that was one of the best gigs we've ever played. It was a beautiful evening. But then we went on tour for Icon with Sepultura. On the KSAD tour, we were promoting Icon, they were promoting KSAD, and that tour was just incredible. They were on fire, I thought, Sepultura were like, they were really going places, and they sounded great. I watched them every night. Still good friends. It was actually quite nice to bump into Andreas and Paolo the other week. Actually, bumped into at a festival at Summer Breeze, and they, such a good tour, a great package. And we went out on our own tour for Icon with Crowbar, and they've been lifelong friends ever since as well, And I love Crowbar as a band anyway. I mean, I think every night of that tour we did with Crowbar, I watched them play their cover version of No Quarter, which is still my favourite cover by any band of all time. And they sounded immense, And it's nice that Todd's Sexy T's back in the band. But yeah, no, it was a lot of touring and a lot of time on MTV and things like that. Great time. And that led us on to Draconian Times.
Yeah, a very big record.
Yeah, I mean that record. I don't think I saw home for nearly 2 years. We were touring so much for this one. Got Lee Morris on the back there, Lee, and we thought Icon took us to a level, but Draconian Times seemed to really take us to a whole new level, really, especially with the press and everything. But I mean, we were improving a lot as songwriters and as musicians, I think. And I think Drac Times is probably, for me, it's our joint most complete album, where front to back, you wouldn't change anything. The Plague Within is another one for me that's very much like that, a great record that we've done more recently. We'll get to that in a minute.
Yep.
But Draconian Times, during that tour, I mean, we played Roma Stadium with Sex Pistols, Iggy Pop, Slayer, Sepultura. Still can't believe we did that. That was good fun. The Sex Pistols were on fire that night. They were doing their Filthy Lucre tour. I just remember when Roma Olympic Stadium is obviously where the Roma football team play. I just remember the Sepultura lads, because they're football mad. We had a game of five-a-side in the dressing rooms, us versus them. We lost, obviously. They're Brazilian, after all. And then they literally ran out onto the pitch kicking a football, and it was I've never seen staff come. You didn't even know they were like, get out! And they were shouting in Italian to get off the grass, because obviously they don't want people mucking about on it. But I just remember the Sepultura lads were so excited to run out onto the grass, and they got a complete bollocking. But that was quite funny. And Iggy Pop had see-through trousers on. Good grief. He's a nice bloke, Iggy Pop. But yeah, no, I mean, it just felt like we spent 2 years on tour promoting it, which was good and bad, because obviously you miss home, and people had children and things as well. But do you know what? Such a great time, and Music for Nations yet again did a sterling job with helping promoting it. I mean, they were fantastic, and that leads us on to 1 Second.
Now, 1 Second was a big change, big departure.
Yeah, I think.
What was going through your heads when you made that?
I think as much as anything, because we'd done Icon and Drac Times, and literally out of 4 years, we were home for about 8 months, 9 months at most. And I think we just needed to do something different to sort of keep our sanity as much as anything, because we formed Paradise Lost to make the music we wanted to hear, and we do it because we enjoy it. We don't do it for any other reason. And the thing with 1 Second is we needed to change it up a bit, because after doing the twin guitar harmony thing for literally 4 years solid of touring, we need to do something different. And we all like sort of the electronic goth bands and like Depeche Mode and bands like that. You know, it seemed, I don't know, it kind of felt quite organic going from it really. And when we played it live, obviously it was stupendous. It's funny because Harry from Solstice Fear, he was asking me about it the other day because he likes the 1 Second album. And I was saying, yeah, I mean, there's a couple in there that I'd love to play again. Like Disappear is one that me and Greg actually keep wanting to put back in the set, but it's hard to. I think we've got something like nearly bloody 200 songs or something.
That's right.
You know,
right.
so it's hard to pick a set. There's certain songs which you play or get rotated a lot. Like tonight actually, because the Atlas Muff guys were been nagging us, we're putting a Small Town Boy in the set tonight, which we haven't we've played at the Danzig shows recently, but it always goes down well, you know. So yeah, stick that in, why not? But the 1 Second album, we recorded that with Sank at a studio. Actually, it's the same studio where Rush did Farewell to Kings, which is one of my favourite albums of all time. There's a picture in the gatefold of them standing next to a window, and when I saw that window, I was like, yeah, it's a little fanboy in me went, absolutely, yes.
Nothing wrong with that.
Well, it's the same when I recorded Drac Times. I was asking the owner, Frank, where potentially Randy Rhoads recorded D with Ozzy Osbourne, because I'm a big Randy Rhoads fan. So he said, oh, usually people pick this corner for acoustic. So the acoustic thing I did on Drac Times, I did it in hopefully the same corner as Randy Rhoads. So you do get these little fanboy moments. Good, because, you know, you love music.
About,
you love music, and that's why we all do it. You know, I mean, I always say if somebody comes to see us, if they enjoy it half as much as I do playing live, they've had a good night, because I bloody love it, you know, still do. I think we're enjoying it a lot more now than we ever have, I think, because you learn to appreciate, especially after 30 years, that you're bloody lucky to be still doing it, really.
Now, with 1 Second, it seems like that album opened the doorway towards experimentation and really kind of going.
Yeah, I think
places as you.
There was quite a few of our contemporaries also experimenting. It was quite funny. I mean, especially when I get on to the next record, Host. I mean, 1 Second was also the last one for Music for Nations, who were tremendous. And you know, it's like I mean, Andy Black, who ran Music for Nations back then. I went to his 60th birthday party the other day, and it's like Liam, who used to look after us at Music for Nations. He introduced me to my wife, who I've now been married to for 16 years. It was his 50th recently, so I went to his birthday. Hopefully I'm going to be 50 next year, bit of luck.
Oh, me too.
But, you know, so there's a real family feeling between, you know, everyone like Jem and Martin Hooker, who were on the label, and it was such a good label that I think ever since then we've been trying to find that again. Which, I mean, the industry has changed a lot, but we've been quite lucky in recent years, especially with like Central Media and Nuclear Blast. The people are really into your music, and I think that helps a lot. You know, we've experimented with the majors, which I suppose I'll get onto now. We're signed with EMI for the Host record, and besides it being, actually it's our doomiest record ever. I think it's the most miserable record we've ever done. Not that we were feeling miserable, but it's a dark record really. But it's, for a lot of people, the combination of signing for EMI, cutting our hair, and going a lot more electronic shocked a lot of people. And I think a lot of people were quite relieved afterwards, because once we'd done it, they could get away with it, because we took the shower of shit that came with that. And it's like, you know, the constant question, I don't know for how many years, first question in some interviews, like, why did you cut your hair? Most ridiculous question ever, you know. And as I mean, back in MySpace days, I thought of a slogan, and I had it on there. It said, it's called head banging, not hair banging. That was my slogan when I shaved my head, anyway.
Well, speaking of a ridiculous question, I have to insert one in. It's not about hair, but you being so doomy and miserable and whatnot, is there such a thing as the misery meter?
No, I don't know. There's just been Paradise Lost, I think, and that's the meter for it. But I think On the miserable side of it, it's like Nick gets a bad rap for being most miserable man in metal and stuff like that. But he's basically like having a comedian on tour. He's absolutely hilarious. But the thing is, doing miserable music means it's a release of sorts, and we're all have a good time. And in fact, half the time we're laughing in between photo shoots when we go. So we're having a laugh, and it's like, things like. But you have to enjoy life. Whereas when you read autobiographies of comedians who have to make people laugh for a living, there's a lot of them who are as miserable as sin. And
same goes for the bands. I mean, you read biographies by the Eagles or Beach Boys, very happy sounding music. Yet behind the scenes, oh my God. You think they were in Slayer.
Yeah. I know. But it's I think we sort of opened the door, and the thing is, it was such a shock for a lot of people. People actually now going back to it, and we've just had Gomez, who's done our last couple of albums. He's remixed Host and Believe in Nothing recently, and it's made a big difference actually, because I always thought that, especially with Host, that the mix was it lacked dynamics. It was very flat kind of mix, and that didn't help, because when we played the Host songs live, I mean, I even added some extra guitar parts. But when we played it live, the dynamics were there, because the keyboards were jumping in and out, and the guitars were on up and down, lots of effects. But actually, it was very interesting to make Host, for me personally, because normally I just do all the rhythms and acoustic stuff. But with Host, I got to play with effects a lot more, and Greg was writing all the keyboards, and I'd say, if I can do that on a guitar, can I do it? And he was like, yeah, go for it. If you can make the guitar sound like that keyboard sound, then do it. So it was an really interesting record. I mean, we rented a manor house off Jane Seymour, the actress. It was her place. I mean, my room was oak panelled walls and tapestries everywhere. Amazing place. We built a studio in her house temporarily. We thought it'd be a laugh to do that, but well, it was. I mean, I had a tennis court for practicing my Tai Chi sabre form every morning, so that was quite good for that. But yeah, no, it was good for that really. So, but Host, I think people in reflection going back like it more now. I think, But at the time it was a big shock for people. But it was funny because EMI, people blamed us going to EMI as for the reason why we sounded like that. And in fact, when we handed them the record, because we didn't bother giving them demos. We've been very lucky. Record companies have always trusted us. Let us do whatever we want. And when we gave them the masters, they were like, oh, we expected something heavier.
There you go.
So it wasn't EMI's fault. And, Eric and all the guys who were there at EMI Germany were very good. But the only problem with the major is you found a lot of the distribution countries weren't as interested. So that was the downside of that. That and Believe in Nothing we did with John Fryer, top guy. He'd worked with Cradle of Filth and him, I think, previously. It was all around the same time as I did Cradle of Filth as well. Now, John was a really interesting fella, because he'd done like Nine Inch Nails and all sorts of things, but we were at a funny point where we wanted to get a bit more guitar back into it, but we were sort of in a transition period, and Believe in Nothing has some of my favourite songs we've done on it. One in particular, actually, one of my top 5 PL songs of all time was a B-side called Gone. Really, it's got the classic Greg McIntosh like repeating sort of melody line at the end, and nice and miserable. And the original demo version we had in the mid section, there's like a middle 8 with just like a clean guitar part, and we had the end speech from Blade Runner, The Time to Die, and the rainfall, and it fit beauty with it. And so we approached, I can't remember who it was now, was it Sony Pictures? I think it might have been, to ask how much it would be to use that. And they said starting price of £30,000, and we were like, we're recording the album for less than that. So it was like, all right then, we're not doing that. So we tried doing another one with a friend of ours, an actor, Tony, who sadly passed away now, but he had a lovely deep voice. We tried to get him to do the thing, but it didn't quite fit. It wasn't the same. But the song still, even without the speech, on the Gomez's remix, it's brilliant. So if you do like PL and you've not heard the track Gone, give it a listen. For some reason, it's just something about it I've always liked. It's right on my street. I love the Doom song. So
see, that's the beauty of this interview, that you get to say about all the things you know and feel that people may not pay attention to, and all of a sudden you can steer them in the right direction. And who knows, maybe a few months, years down the line, people will be like, hey, I heard the song because I saw it on an interview, and all of a sudden I totally get it.
Yeah. No, but the thing is, we were never really entirely happy with the mix. Because it got mixed a couple of times, it got delayed because it was getting another mix. But no, Gomez has done a really good job. And then we signed for Gun Records and we did Symbol of Life.
Symbol of Life.
The last one with Lee, who'd been with us for quite a long time. I think he'd been with us for 10 years or something at that point. And this has got some absolute. I mean, I love the artwork. I mean, that on a T-shirt was brilliant. But it was really some great songs like Pray Nightfall. I love that song, although we never really play it live, which is a bit annoying. But you know, Praise Lamented Shade. Some great, really good songs on it. And Gun were very good with us, but yet again, it was another case of they got bought out by Sony, I think it was. And where they'd signed us in Germany and the sort of, you know, the Switzerland, Austria, and France were actually very good with us. Sometimes when you went to another country, like Norway or something, and it was like, so, you know, it was their distribution, it'd be less interest, or they wouldn't be putting you up for interviews, and we kind of got a bit disillusioned around that time with the fact that being on a major label probably wasn't working for us. It sounds glamorous and it sounds great to do it, but we've always, you know, I mean, the people who were working for us who had signed us were great at Gun, but it's then when worldwide the label didn't have the same sort of dedication and you know, and oomph to do it. But Symbol of Life was really good album to tour. And yeah, it's the one where I think Lee, towards the end of it, it was time for him to do something else. I think, you know, he got married, and I think he was missing home, and you know, various things. So yeah, we parted with Lee, who had been a phenomenal drummer, you know, for us. You know, him being such a good drummer helped us up our game as well. So a big thanks. I'm still friends with him. He's in Magnum now, which is pretty cool. I love the early Magnum stuff. So fair play to him. He's still going for it, and he's a top lad.
Excellent.
Right. Next up is Paradise Lost. Now we called this one Paradise Lost because it was our 10th album. And we just thought, well, yeah, it was kind of reaffirming the fact. I remember when we formed the band, we were like trying to think of a band name, and Nick came up with Paradise Lost. I remember we were walking through Sophie Bridge. And he said, "Oh, about Paradise Lost." I said, "Oh, yeah, we'll use that until we think of something better." And then it was like, once we got 10th album, that was like, oh, all right, we're sticking with Paradise Lost then. So I mean, and Jeff Singer came in, great drummer. Jeff was the guy who was joined with Lee Morris to join when Tuds left in '94, and I hate telling Jeff this. It actually was decided on a toss of a coin. They were that similar, that good, both of them. Mm-hmm. Very different drummers, but both amazing. And when he heard that we'd let Lee go, Jeff instantly got on the phone. He goes, "I want to audition," you know, because he wanted to come back and do it. And do you know what? He was superb. And Jeff was with us for 5 years. He joined the band, and then his missus got pregnant, and then she got pregnant again, and so they had 2 kids, and it was a kind of case of, well, I don't want to miss my kids growing up, and it's hard for my wife, and because we were touring quite a lot. And towards the end, he said, "Look, you know," I said, "You know, I've got my mates offered me a job, and you know," he said, I said, he didn't want to leave at all. In fact, he always comes and says hello and everything. Top bloke. And he's got his own band as well, Kill to This, with his mate Mark. They're very good. Mm-hmm. But he's watching his kids grow up. When he said, "Look, lads, do you mind if I leave? I want to see my kids growing up." And we were like, best reason in the world not to be in the band, you know. So it's like, of course, God bless him. Then they had a 3rd child come on the way by the time he left. So it was probably the best thing. But Jeff, great drummer. And
now, this record also kind of re-established Paradise Lost as the heavy band you once were.
Yeah, I think it started with Symbol of Life. I think the guitars started coming back, especially with these ones. We liked the way Symbol of Life sounded live. It was a bit heavier. So that one, this Paradise Lost became literally what Symbol of Life sounded like live. And same with in Requiem. In Requiem was a bit heavier because it was like Paradise Lost sounded live, if you know what I mean. And in Requiem, I mean, I love this album. I mean, the song in Requiem is brilliant. But Jeff, yet again, great drumming. I think this one was when we were on Century Media, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Century Media were great. They were the kind of label we'd been looking for a long time to get back to a bunch of people who all love metal, want to work hard on your music because they believe in you, and that it was great to have that, you know. And Century Media, absolutely brilliant. Jens Pruter and everyone there, and Dave Golvin in the UK, all still, I mean, very good friends, you know. And they worked their little socks off, and you know, they were absolute stars. They loved it, lived it with us, you know. And you know, these albums were getting heavier and heavier again because we were sort of enjoying it. And then, you know, we get to Faith Divides Us, which has got I mean, I love the song Faith Divides Us. I love playing it live. It's one of my favourite songs we've ever done. And this album, I think, as we were just saying, they're just getting heavier and heavier with each record. But the Faith Divides Us record was a weird one to do because this is the one with Peter Damon in it, the session drummer, and he was. I remember when Adrian joined the band. We'd auditioned him about 2 weeks before we went to record the album, but we already had the session drummer booked. So when we went to do Faith Divides Us, Peter, the guy, was there. He was just like, I mean, he plays with like I think it was Hadaway and stuff like that. He did loads of pop stuff as well, but he was great drummer, and it was like, can you do that feel like this? Instantly. Superb drummer. And I remember when we gave Adrian Erlandson the tape when we got back, and he said, it sounds like it's played by a Swedish wizard. Which is still one of my favourite things. Adrian's a top, well, funny enough, I've just been messaging with Adrian just before the interview. Mm-hmm. He's out on tour as well at the minute with At the Gates, and Adrian is like, God, he's so funny. A little bit of a practical joker, I've got to say, but he's such a good laugh. I mean, and he lives, both he and I lived in London, so we used to travel together all the time. I've had some right good laughs with Adrian. A top guy, and he just really has to keep busy. So, you know, when he came towards the end of being with Paradise Lost, I think he recorded 5 albums in a year, and 3 of those bands were touring. It was just like, are you sure you're going to have time for Paradise Lost? Yes. It's like, but then you know, the At the Gates album, that when they first sort of did the new album, it did really well. And good for them, you know. And the thing is, totally understand when Adrian and PL part completely amicably as well, because I mean, you're going to go with your teenage friends, you know, your band, you know. Yeah. He loved being in PL. He was a big PL fan, Adrian, and he absolutely loved playing the stuff, you know. But yeah, no, he just got so busy. He had to leave Val and Fire, and then I think he left Brujeria, and then, you know, obviously PL was because we're all doing similar festivals, and it'd be like, but we'd be at different festivals the same weekend, and you know, he did as many as he could. And Jeff Singer used to come and stand in for quite a lot of them, which he absolutely loved because it was Weekend Warrior time, and you know, and Jeff absolutely loved it. But yeah, it got to the point where we needed to get a new drummer. But I mean, Tragic Idol as well, another one. We did that back in Lincolnshire, where we'd done quite a lot of albums at that studio, the Chapel. Really good. But I mean, Tragic Idol, the song, I love playing that live. But the one I want us to start playing again is Honesty in Death. We nearly did it for this tour as well, but Nick was worried about his voice pushing it, with too many songs pushing it hard every night. But Honesty in Death, I want that song to come back because it's one of the best ones on there. Such a catchy chorus. I mean, I know I sound like we're blowing our own trumpet, but I do love what we do, you know. So sorry.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. But yeah, no, he did a great job. And then Adrian, the last one he did with us was The Plague Within, which for me is one of the most complete albums we've ever done, end to end. There's a good bunch of variety. There's like a super like death metal speed one. There's of course Beneath Broken Earth, which is intense live. I mean, playing it at summer festivals in the sunshine was a bit weird, but it still kept its gravitas, I feel.
You brought the darkness to the light.
Yes, we did. Clouds formed over the stage. But yeah, Beneath Broken Earth, you know, and No Hope in Sight goes down really well, you know. I mean, we usually play that first song of the encore. But yeah, for me, end to end, it's got so many cracking songs on it. I mean, we could play any songs off that album, I think. But yeah, Eternity of Lies. Actually, that one's out of the set tonight. We've had it in the set this week. We're swapping it for Small Town Boy tonight. That was actually one more thing about the Symbol of Life album. We did 2 covers for that. One was Small Town Boy, which has proved a lot more popular
From
than we
Bronski Beat.
Yeah,
right?
proved a lot more popular than we ever expected. But we also did a Dead Can Dance cover, because we're all big Dead Can Dance fans, of Xavier, and I love that. We only rehearsed it once when we did pre-production with Reese Fulber, who was a producer on that record, and it was just like, it was immense. That was a proper hair on the back of your neck thing, that. But yeah, we only played it that one day in pre-production. That was it. Then we played it in separate parts when we recorded the album. But yeah, no, I mean, Adrian left us with Beneath Broken Earth. But that video is great. We just did that in the cellar of the rehearsal room. And we were a bit tired of these loads of performance videos and running around like idiots and stuff like that. So we did one where we basically didn't move at all in a dark room. So, but it works really well with the video. Now that brings us up to our first record for Nuclear Blast,
The newest album.
which is Medusa. Now this is probably a follow on again from the last song written for The Plague Within was Beneath Broken Earth, and he literally Greg wrote it about 2 weeks I think before we were in the studio, and I remember Greg sent me Beneath Broken Earth. He didn't say anything about it. He said, have a listen to this, tell me what you think, and he sent me the song, and I was just like, whoa, that's brilliant, because I mean, he knows I'm a sucker for Doom. Me and Greg love the Doom stuff, so it's like, and I was like, whoa, this is amazing. And when we were recording Beneath Broken Earth, we were like kids. It's like, oh, it sounds ace, doesn't it? You know, and we still get like that, you know, that's, you know, it's good, you know, because that's why we do it, you know. But yeah, when we were recording Beneath Broken Earth and layering up the harmonies and everything, it was just like, whoa, it sounds ace. Felt like we were 14 again, to be honest. It was ace. Really, really good. But yeah, and I think that's what carried through over into Medusa. I mean, especially with like Fearless Sky, I really enjoyed that. When I first heard that, I was like, come on. But I mean, the song Medusa itself is probably my favourite on this record. I don't know, it's got a great tempo to it. It's not too fast, it's not too slow. It's got a nice speed to it, and Nick's vocals are phenomenal on it. Because you know, he's over the last 2 albums he's done a lot more growling. I think he didn't do it for years, as much as anything, because the music didn't really demand it. But I think he was worried about doing some songs growling and some songs with a normal singing voice and it knackering up his voice, or you know, not being able to do it. But then once he obviously joined Bloodbath, it got a lot more. He got his confidence in being able to do it again. And in fact, he finds the growling easier than the normal singing, because that can strain his voice a lot easier than the growling. So yeah, the last 2 albums I've had a lot more of that on, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's even more on the next one. But yeah, Nuclear Blast have done a great job with this one, and it's even led us to doing it's our 30th anniversary / Medusa tour, our first ever US headline tour, and Canada. Mm-hmm. And it's been great, and the crowds have been, because it's a bit of an unknown entity. We've been over obviously supporting Nightwish and Devin and Opeth, as well as like Morbid Angel and Creator. But doing our own, it was a bit of an unknown. We didn't know what to expect, you know. And it's been great. The crowd very vocal, which is brilliant, because it helped Gigi up. I mean, I'm there to have a good time anyway. So if they're coming along for the ride, I'm more than happy.
Did you ever anticipate that this would last for 30 years when you formed the band?
No. No. I mean, we still don't really plan too far ahead. I mean, each album we know what we're going to be roughly doing for 2 years, but that's about it really. You can't really plan ahead too long, you know. I mean, I've known Tuds, the original drummer. I met him, he sat behind me at school when I was 11 years old. Greg was in the next class when I was 11. I met Nick when I was 12 years old going BMXing. We used to be both into doing like tricks and stuff on BMX. He was actually a pretty good racer, was Nick. And Steve I've known since I was 16, so it's like to have 4 out of 5 of us, you know, that I've known this long. I think the main reason we've stayed together is because we were friends first.
Yeah, and how would you kind of describe the relationship? Because I mean, apart for the drummer, the four of you stayed together for 30 years. That's a long time to be in a band. I mean, there are very few bands that maintain nearly original lineup.
Yeah.
So how do you describe that throughout the years?
Our common love of the same comedy. I think we laugh at the same things. We like a drink. Nobody's into drugs, so we've never had to deal with that problem, particularly, anybody going a bit, like hard drugs and stuff like that. We like a drink, and we like to drink together and have a laugh, and I think that's kept us together. That, and we love the music we love together. We like to drink together, and we like to laugh together. It's that's enough for us,
Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure. Thank you very much.